Have your attention, please. 6:31 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees to order. We do have a quorum present, and the meeting has been posted in the matters prescribed by law. This time I'd like our principals to introduce our students of the month. First, recognize Mr. Steve Whiffen, our Forney High School principal. He's going to introduce our secondary student of the month, which will lead our pledge to the U.S. flag. And then Miss Jenny Harstrom, Lewis Elementary School principal, will introduce her elementary student of the month, who will lead us in the Texas pledge. So once they're introduced, I will ask everyone to rise, then we'll have an invocation, and then these students can lead their pledges. So with that said, Mr. Whiffen, you have the floor.
Very good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Superintendent McWilliams, I'm pleased to introduce to everyone this evening Ms. Drosani Hernandez Arzeta. Drosani is the only English speaker in her home. She learned Spanish at home and has learned English at school. She works hard in school because her parents have reminded her over and over again that she must if she wants to succeed and she wants to become a college student. In middle school, Drosani started taking challenging coursework and fell in love with learning. She qualified as a freshman in high school for membership in the National Spanish Honor Society. She qualified last year as a sophomore for membership in the National Honor Society as one of our top students. She's finished all the available advanced placement coursework in Spanish language and literature, earning 5s on both the literature exam and the language exam. Those are the highest scores you can make. And it's interesting to me, I would imagine as a native speaker that Drosani would make a 5 in the language, but to make a 5 in Spanish literature is difficult and requires tremendous study and mastery of difficult works like Don Quixote and much more. And she made a 5. She started in health science technology this year, her junior year, and has decided that she wants a career in medicine. She's a junior, and her schedule is challenging. She's a student in advanced placement physics, college-level dual credit English, college dual credit U.S. history, and pre-AP, pre-calculus in math. She ran varsity track as a freshman. As a sophomore, she qualified for both varsity track and varsity cross country. This year, she is the top cross country runner at Forney High School, and she wants to run in college, where she will be a first-generation college student. All of those things are great accomplishment, but what's really telling to me are the words that her teachers and coaches use to describe her. A model student athlete. She excels in my classroom. She is helpful to other students. She exemplifies the word jackrabbit and the word student athlete, emphasis on student. She's outstanding inside and outside the classroom. An outstanding example of what it means to be a jackrabbit. A top student in my classroom, she also excels as a runner. She is among the top students in my classroom and among the top people that I have come to know. That's a really telling remark. A student athlete, a leader in the classroom and on the race course, an expert time manager. She balances early morning workouts with advanced placement and college-level dual credit coursework across the board. She is reliable, honest, hardworking, an awesome young woman. She's a contributor in every way. She's my hero, and she should be yours as well. Ms. Drosani Hernandez Arzeta.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Harstrom, and I'm the principal at Lewis Elementary, and it is my extreme pleasure to be able to introduce Noah Wilson tonight. Noah and I have something in common. We're both brand new to Forney this year, and Noah has been a great fit coming into our school. He is coming from the Abilene area, and he has quickly made friends. His teachers have lots of great things to say about how well he's fit into our campus and into the classroom. In fact, when I asked them who it was they felt should be nominated and recognized without hesitation and with very few seconds in between. All three unanimously told me that Noah was the one that was to be recognized for the great work that he does in the classroom on a daily basis. They discussed that he's an incredibly hard worker. He is very articulate and consistently complies with all teacher directives on a daily basis. They also indicate that he has a passion for learning, and it's displayed through his critical thinking skills and how he elevates the class discussion. He also is a lover of science. And all three of his teachers agreed that Noah's always thinking one step ahead, and he's always making connections beyond the grade level curriculum that's being instructed. He has plans to attend Abilene Christian University and would like to eventually seek a degree in paleontology. His love of paleontology causes him to want to read books and search on the internet and watch anything he can in relationship to that. And he also said in his free time he does like to play with his friends and spend time on his iPad. But it's great to see that at such a young age he already has such a drive for what he wants to do in the future. And we're so happy to have him on our campus. And welcome to Forney. Thank you, Noah.
If you'll now rise, Board Member Chad Johnson will lead our invocation, and then these students are pledges. Mr. Johnson.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time we can gather tonight. Father, we are mindful there are many in our country that are hurting tonight, many that have lost loved ones and that are recovering from just wounds that will take a lifetime to heal. We just ask that you would be with them, that your comfort and grace would be with all those in that situation. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together tonight to make decisions for the school and our district and our students. We just ask that you would guide us. Help us to make the best decisions as we move forward into the future. Help us to be good stewards of the talents and the resources that have been entrusted to us. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Congratulations again. Well, it's always good to start our meeting off with some great young people, especially student athletes that exemplify our district both on the field of play, but also in the classroom. Dual credit, that's just incredible. So thanks again. Let's give them a round of applause again. Moving on to item 5 is the recognition and acceptance of a donation. Item A is a donation by the Forney Education Foundation of $40,000 for teacher grants. At this time, the chair would like to recognize Ms. Kate Bell Kyrlieber, the executive director of the Forney Education Leadership Foundation, as well as members of their executive committee, including Greg Ferris, the president, Billy Casper, Robert Dobbs, and Tom Bellabradick. So if you guys would come forward.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for your service and everything you do for our district. We are very excited this evening. A unanimous vote last Monday approved tonight's presentation of $40,000 to the Forney Independent School District for innovative teaching grants on behalf of the Forney Education Foundation. Thank you so much.
Board, why don't we all come down here for a photograph? You can't see Judy, she can't see you.
That is magic. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more.
Thanks again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ma'am, appreciate it. Don, thank you. Well, before they get gone, I just want to say some things. You know, this foundation was started, I believe, back in 2004 and gave their first scholarships either in 4 or 5. But, you know, they really worked tirelessly to support this district and our kiddos. And I can't say enough about our educators. The donation that they're giving tonight is from the pledges from our teachers that work for this district. I mean, you know, and so that says, I think that says volumes for the foundation, that when our own employees will give their money, their personal wages out of their paychecks to benefit this foundation, which in turn is entrusted to this board, the FELF board, and then turned around and entrusted to this school board to spend that money on these kiddos and in their classrooms. Like I said, I think that just speaks volumes of the trust, the confidence, and the leadership of this group. So thank y'all for what y'all do. It's just awesome. And, you know, that's been expanded from scholarships to innovative teaching grants to now scholarships for the dual credit classes. And I think you're really going to see this foundation just truly, really make a deeper impact into our students today through this dual credit program, because they're going to touch more kiddos in this process. So, Mr. Ferris, we appreciate your leadership for the foundation as well as your board service. So he's pulling double duty, and so thank y'all for your volunteerism. We appreciate that. So, and Ms. Kylieber, you're doing a great job. So we appreciate your leadership as well. So let's give a round of applause to this foundation and our teachers. Hats off to these.
Make one
yes,
comment.
Go ahead.
Just want to remind everybody, we have a fundraiser for the foundation this Friday, so if you know anybody who would like to join us for Top Golf on Friday afternoon, direct them to our website. It's got all the information there, and you can contact us there. I know Mr. Carroll wants to put together a team, so be looking for that email.
once again, thank you for especially, like I said, our educators, our employees that have given staff, principals, central office staff, classroom educators, coaches that have given their money. So we certainly appreciate that, and wanted to take the time to recognize you and let you know how much it means to us. So thanks again. Moving on to item 6, recognition. Item 6A is the Principal Appreciation Month. So at this time, I'd like to recognize our superintendent, Ms. Susie McWilliams.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Well, as you know, great principals build character. They inspire dreams. They encourage creativity. They build confidence. They instill a love of learning. They touch hearts. They change lives forever. That is a great summary of the principals in Forney ISD. I can say this, in all honesty, this is the strongest principal staff I've ever worked with. They are incredible. The things that I watch them do on a daily basis, they are true leaders. Their teachers love them, their children love them, their students love them, and I'm very proud to be a part of your team. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board and on behalf of the administration here at Central Office Principals. We just want to say thank you for all that you do day in and day out. And I get many emails on the weekends because your work never stops. You work around the clock, and we know that, and we appreciate that. So we thank you for all that you do for your campus, and not only that, but for all that you do for Forney ISD, because we know that you are the heart and soul of our organization, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much. And Justin, if you wouldn't mind to introduce the principals, we'd like to ask you to come up. And board, if you wouldn't mind to come down. And we have a little gift for you.
Principals, as we call your name, if you would step forward and then hold for a large group photo. First, we'd like to thank and appreciate our principal from Blackburn Elementary School, Miss Courtney Parker. Next, our wonderful principal from Claiborne Elementary School, Miss Christy Crabtree. In her second year to Forney ISD, our principal at Criswell Elementary School, Miss Rachel Bonner. And new to Crosby Elementary School, in her first year as principal, Miss Leslie Rader. We'd also like to recognize our principal at Henderson Elementary School, Miss Lori Branch. However, she had a sick child tonight and had to rush to the emergency room, but we do want to appreciate her as well. We'll make sure that that gift gets there to her. From Johnson Elementary School, Principal Miss Nancy McElroy. New to Forney ISD this year, wonderful principal out at Lewis Elementary School, Miss Jenny Harstrom. And in her second year at Ray Elementary School as principal, Dr. Barbie Donahue. Now that we'd like to recognize our last elementary school principal, Mr. Jeff Hutchison, principal at Smith Elementary School. So excited to have Dr. Pam Luttrell move over from Lewis Elementary School to Brown this year. Principal Brown Middle School, Dr. Pam Luttrell. Joining us last year around March, and excited to have her on board as the principal of Warren Middle School, Ms. Sandra Floyd. Next, we have principal at Forney High School, Mr. Steve Whiffen. And leading the North Forney Falcons, Ms. Courtney Peck. And our new principal at the Forney Academic Center this year, Mr. Joshua Garcia, and he did have some family challenges, I know, and doesn't look like he could make it either tonight. So, but also let's recognize Mr. Josh Garcia, new principal at Forney Academic Center. Principals, we do appreciate all that you do. You definitely have the hardest job in the district. Each and every one of us know that. So let's give all of our principals one big round of applause for all they do for our children.
While everybody's standing, I'm just going to go ahead and have a recess here at 6:54, and let's call a recess here for about 10 minutes. Thank you. 7:01 p.m. We're going to reconvene into open session. Under item 8, audience participation, no one wished to address the board tonight, so we'll move on to item 9, reports. Item 9A is the monthly financial report. This time, Chair would recognize Mr. John Chase, our CFO. Mr. Chase.
The monthly financial report for August 31st is presented for your review. The revenue recognized for August was $414,000. The expenses for the month was $6.3 million. Year-to-date revenue recognized was $891,000, which is 1% of the amount estimated. Last year at this time, pretty much the same, 1% of the amount estimated. Year-to-date expenditures was $10.1 million, or 13% of the amount estimated. And last year at this time, we were at 12%, so pretty much on target in the general fund. Moving on to the debt service fund, we collected $25,000, almost $26,000 in property taxes for the month. Expenditures was $11.1 million. We had our large principal and interest payments that we make twice a year in August. The next one we'll have an interest payment in February, but those are due August. That's why we have such a large payment there. Year-to-date revenue recognized was $133,000, or 1% of the amount estimated. Last year we were just under 1% as well. Year-to-date expenditures is $12.4 million, or 73% of the amount estimated. Last year at this time, we were at 63%, so it's a 10% variance there, most of which is explained by, if you'll recall, last September, not this past September, but the September before, we passed a resolution to redeem some bonds early, so that $800,000, $830 or so thousand payment was made in August, so it pushed up our amount of expenditures for the year. So, moving on to the cash and investments for August, the general food service, debt service, capital project total cash on hand by August 31st was $23.9 million. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions concerning the monthly financial report? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9B, summary of finance update. Mr. Chase, our CFO.
So this is the time of year that we kind of go over the summary, the near final summaries of finances with the board. This basically is the financial, or the summary that shows what we were actually entitled to receive for the school district for the prior school year. So just by way of introduction, the 2016-17 near final summaries of finances was included in your board packet on page 8 through 12. There are two columns on the report. There's the LPE column, or the legislative payment estimate, and that's the column that they use to determine how much cash they're going to send us for the year. The next column is the near final column, or the NF column, and that's the column that's been updated with our actual student enrollment and actual tax collections for the year. So, basically at this point in time, we can say that, what's in this report, with a few exceptions, is going to be the amount of cash or revenue that we'll have earned for the last school year. So just jumping into the report, again, on the LPE side, our refined average daily attendance they used to send the cash to us was 9,250 kids. We actually turned in, actually had 9,290 kids that were in average daily attendance for that last school year. So that translates into, we actually earned on the maintenance and operations for the year right at $37 million of state aid, and about $2.9 million for INS, or through the EDA and IFA programs to help service our bonded debt. So the last page in the allocations or in adjustments column, I mean, the thing that you would focus on there is on line 7, and that's the amount. It's either a positive or negative number. A positive number, it means basically that we have been underpaid. If it was a negative number, it would mean that we have been overpaid. And so this year, again, with our average daily attendance being higher than what their original estimate was, we would expect to be underpaid, and we were almost $40,000. And we talked a little bit about this back in July. So just by way of summary, I mean, they sent us $36.2 million by August 31st of this year for last school year's revenues from the state. We actually earned 37, as I've already pointed out, which means that we were underpaid about $800,000. And again, we talked a little bit about this back in July, but we didn't receive this money until September the 26th, I believe, which is more than 60 days after the fiscal year end. And so as a consequence, that revenue is not recognized in our fund financial statements. Now, there's another set of financials that are reported in our audit report and that are on a full accrual basis, and that revenue will be recognized in that set of statements. But for all intents and purposes, the fund financial statements that we look at month over month and here at the board meetings, that does not include that revenue recognized. So that's the summaries of finances, near final. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions concerning the near final summary of finance update? All right. Moving on to item 9C is the limited English proficient student enrollment report. This time the chair would recognize Ms. Judith Weber, our Chief Learning Officer. Thank you, Mr. Chase. We appreciate those reports.
Board members and Ms. McWilliams, Board Policy EHBE states that the district shall report to the board the number of limited English proficient students on each campus and shall classify students according to the language in which the students possess primary proficiency. I'm here to report to you that our total to date is 857 LEP students. On our campuses, we have increased by 249 since last year this time. We've also added 5 more languages. I can read the entire list of languages, but you can see them there, and it is extensive. Do you have any questions about our LEP population at this time?
Any questions of the board concerning the limited English proficient student enrollment report? Thank you, Ms. Weber.
I had a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said 249 of What kind of growth last year? Was it about 400?
No, the 249 is our growth from last year.
I'm talking about our total student population.
600.
Oh, total in the growth of enrollment in our population?
About 600, isn't it? It's not about
470 for the whole population.
So over half.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. That's an interesting perspective. Gotcha. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Weber.
Thank you.
Moving on to item D is the Forward Focus and District Improvement Plan update. This time, Chair would recognize Dr. Justin Terry, our Deputy Superintendent. That is.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. It is that time of year. I know you're excited to have me step to the podium tonight with my wonderful slideshow to talk about all the great things we're doing in Forney ISD and about to do. And this is our Forney Focus update. I will do my best to run through this information with you and then share it with you later to review again in your Canvas course that you can review all of our slideshows with. There is a lot of information here because we're embarking on a lot of new things here in Forney ISD and a lot of successes as well to share, but I'll do my best to run through this as quick as possible and answer any questions that you may have at the end. We'll go through this again as normal by board goal. Our goal is about really the learning organization itself, and I'm not going to steal our auditor's thunder to talk about the details of our financial stability throughout our school district, but just pat yourself on the back. You've put our school district in a very good place as a board, and we are currently sitting with a fund balance of around $22.6 million, and you can see the trend over the last few years in Forney ISD, and it's a very, very positive trend. So thank you for that. Very proud to say that we're very healthy, around 4 months of operating expense in the bank right now. I also just wanted to share with you something that you may not see later, and that is our tax rate comparisons. There's a lot of question about this and discussion many times around Forney, and I think it's very eye-opening to see where we really fall when you look at the overall tax rate comparison from an educational standpoint. And so what we've got here is just some comparison school districts that have been updated. You may remember this slide from the spring, but many of those schools have actually increased their tax rate over the past few months, and you can see Forney ISD has stayed very stagnant, and this is one time we're excited to be stagnant. So very much competitive when it comes to other school districts around our area and fast growth on the east side of Dallas-Fort Worth. Master planning, we do have an update coming, so I'll visit with you a little bit more about that, but this is definitely on our radar and will continue to be for the next 2 years. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the agenda item later on in the board meeting. Maintenance and safety and security. We talked a lot about this in the budget planning process this year, and really excited about the progress that we've already made. We want to thank you for the funds that you have allotted towards these items, and just wanted to share with you a little bit about our progress and where we're headed for the rest of the school year from these two items. First off, maintenance. Many of you, if you have been to Criswell, have noticed it is much brighter and refreshed. We have completed all the flooring upgrades throughout the entire building. We've replaced all the chalkboards with whiteboards in all of our classrooms. Excited to do that. Finally, they were making great bulletin boards, but now they can actually be utilized as whiteboards. The entire building, all classrooms and hallways have been repainted and redesigned, as well as refreshing the front entryways and the office itself to more of an up-to-date look with some nice flooring. Claiborne Elementary is coming soon. We'll start to talk about that this spring. Looking to replace the roof. It is in need, and that is already in the budget this year. We thank you for that. So that'll look to. We'll talk about that a little bit more this spring or summer. And Brown Middle School, we've completed a few projects over there over the past few months. Completed all the sidewalk project, and if you've noticed, if you drive by Brown right now, it has a much refreshed look as well from the exterior. We've put some sod down to help with some erosion, things like that, and it looks really nice right now. from the exterior. So thank you for the maintenance upgrades that we've had in our budget this year, as well as about $1.5 million that you budgeted for safety and security, and we've had a lot of progress towards these as well. As you can see, we've installed phones in every classroom in the school district and every office in the school district. That is an upgrade. We've never had elementary school classrooms with phones. It's a very much appreciated safety and communication upgrade. That is completed. Fire panels have been updated at Brown and currently in progress at Forney High School as well. They were definitely in need of repair. Our access control system, and that project is just getting underway. We've got 14 campuses scheduled for this fall, and 15 if you include this building. They've started on many of the wiring at 6 different campuses, including this building. And the access controls, we look to be badging in to this building. We're the first to make sure we get it right, but we're the first. We look to be badging in right after fall break. Camera system upgrades, a lot of our safety and security comes from this system here, and our high schools have been updated completely. We have refurbished some of that equipment down to our lower levels, but we have clear, crisp camera systems now that is already helping our administration, so we're very excited about that. So thank you for again, about $1.5 million that we have allotted as a school district to safety and security this year. Very needed. Second board goal is our learning standards, and I'll run through this just real quickly. This is the next generation of curriculum instruction and assessment in Forney ISD, and we believe across the state. Very excited about this and the progress that we've already made. As you can see, we are looking to build a future-ready curriculum that is instructed in a brain-compatible natural learning environment with experiential-based assessments. This is a plan that will take time. We have already started over the past 2-3 years on the brain-compatible instruction and moving fast and furious forward on this one. This fall, we've actually embarked on our future-ready curriculum. And just want to share a quick video to give you a little update on our progress.
Today, we would like to provide you with another update on Forney ISD's progress as it works to make the Forney Focus 2.0 Plan for the Future a reality. In this update, we will be talking about our new future-ready approach to curriculum. So what does it mean for a student to be future-ready? To answer this question, Forney ISD leaders began by studying research, collaborating with industry leaders, and conducting surveys with local stakeholders and focus groups. The goal of this endeavor was to quantify what it means to be future-ready, and then translate those findings into a comprehensive, vertically aligned K-12 curriculum for Forney ISD students and teachers. Here is what we learned. Future readiness is about more than academics. Passing a series of standardized tests is not what prepares students for the future. And honestly, is anyone really surprised by this fact? But academics are certainly important and will always have a place in education. Students need to be able to perceive, process, and apply academic content at high levels, and teachers must be prepared to provide instruction using brain-compatible instructional strategies. However, academic achievement is only one of the 4 categories that need to be included in a comprehensive, future-ready curriculum. The second of these is the learning and innovation skill set: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. This skill set helps students understand how to work with others and solve problems, and apply the knowledge gained from the academic foundation. The third category is called life and career characteristics. These skills include qualities such as perseverance, service, self-awareness, and self-management. Mastery of these skills helps students successfully navigate complex life and work environments. The fourth and final category is information, technology, and media literacy. Students need to be able to create, evaluate, and effectively utilize information, media, and technology. They not only need to understand the dangers associated with living in a digital world, they need to be prepared with the knowledge and skills of digital citizenship and media literacy. Forney ISD has begun to build our new future-ready curriculum based on these 4 categories. This curriculum is being triangulated by administrators, educators, and most importantly, our students. Every exemplar lesson is reviewed by a team of students who provide feedback and perspective. This process will take time, but in the end, our goal is to provide our students with a learning experience that truly allows them to leave Forney ISD as future-ready graduates.
So we're extremely excited about this process that we've embarked in. I've never heard of anywhere. In fact, we've already been asked to present at TCA and possibly TASA about some of this process of curriculum building, and specifically the use of students and their voice in the process itself and the vetting. So as you heard, we're building this curriculum based on, and you've got this handout in front of you. I think you've seen it before. But all of these skills, and these skills weren't made up. They're definitely research-based, but this came from the feedback from our community. Over the last 3 years, we've collected a lot of feedback through surveys and other means of focus groups and committees, and this is what our community said. So if you want to think about the future ready graduate profile of a Forney ISD student, this is what you see right here. And so we're excited about where we're headed with this. And even more excited that the students are involved in the process of building, and that's something special. Our Forney instructional beliefs are on the back. We're taking this, although we've done a lot of work internally, you will begin to see some videos rolled out, and we're going to now begin to teach our parents what these instructional beliefs really are about. And so you should see some communication over the next few months, obviously in video format that'll really explain what these are about and what their students should be experiencing in all of our classrooms every day. We're continuing to build also our parent curriculum. We talked to you about this last year. This is available for K through 6th grade, and by January we will have a full year's content built out for K through 6 and begin to talk about what 7 through 12 and secondary looks like. This is just examples of how parents can go and support their students at home. Many times it's hard to know what happens behind the closed doors, and our goal is to make that as transparent as possible. Board goal number 3, and I'm just going to ask you to participate with me just for a second. I know some of you have seen this slide before, and I love to model my redhead daughter anytime I can. This is Tatum, and what I want you to do is just think about a student in your life that you know of, and I want you just to picture what it is that they want to be when they grow up. Everybody got one? You got a student in mind, and you're thinking about what they want to be when they grow up. And I'm just going to walk you through kind of our approach to building hope in our children through a plan and a purpose. My daughter is in love with animals. She wants to be a veterinarian. You've heard me say that before. You know what this person in your mind wants to be, and that is their purpose. And this is what we're calling their purpose, and our goal is, as a school district, to help develop the plan to get there. So what is the education that they're going to have, whether it's higher ed or whether it is something post-secondary, technical school, or even just something that we offer here in Forney ISD. But we want to make sure that we've got that plan built in place, and it doesn't start in 9 through 12. So if you work backwards, what is it that we're doing, even through the K through 10 readiness process, to prepare them? And so these are the things that we're really beginning to focus on, and that is we're about to look at a goal-setting process this year with all of our students to help them design their plan every year towards a future-ready career. A lot of that will include things like dual credit and certifications along the way. But to prepare them for that, really we have a goal of all students mastering all of our learning objectives, whether it be from the state of Texas or whether it be some of these future-ready skills that we're beginning to build throughout Forney ISD. And so you'll start to hear us talk a little bit about this, and that our job in the process is building the plan with the student, and that is hopefully going to occur K through 12 for all of our kids. So looking forward to where we're headed with our plan and a purpose for our kids. Culture of excellence, we are continuing to build on. Rick and his team have done a great job of starting last year really with building the concept behind it and really focusing on the building as a whole. This year's focus is bringing it into the classroom and putting some procedures and things like that in place from a behavioral standpoint, and really just talking about building excellence among everything we do. And now our teachers are really beginning to build that within their own classroom. So excited about where we're headed with that. Full steam ahead, we are. You've heard a lot about STEAM, and we're not done yet. And so we're going to continue to talk about science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics, and especially in much of this process of Forney Focus 2.0, and as we look into what reprogramming is as we transition our educational model to an intermediate model. The learning environment is also something that you've heard us talk a little bit about. You see some of the furniture that you have purchased and put into our classrooms, and it is making a splash. I can show you a pile of traditional furniture sitting in a parking lot right now that we love to donate because it's just our teachers have really adopted this, not just with the furniture that we have purchased for them, but on their own. They're making it. They're bringing it in. They're buying it themselves. It's something that they really want to engage in and be a part of, is that flexible learning environment. And so we're about to take that to the next level and not just talk about the learning environment, but the learning setting and the different types of ways that we can use our buildings a little bit differently than a traditional approach to a classroom with 25 desks in rows. And so as you see here, we're working to, we're going to begin some committees to begin to design our 10 to 12 learning settings that we're going to teach, not only what they are and how to use them, but even where they are within our buildings that we already have. And so that's coming soon to a meeting near you. And then finally, if you can believe that, that's a library. Actually, a library in Georgetown, and we did a site visit down there. It's a new elementary school called Pearl Elementary, and we're doing a lot of visioning right now when it comes to what is the library, what's it for, and what should it be used for in the future. And so it looks a little different than some of the libraries maybe that you've seen in the past, with lots of bookshelves and rows. And so we're excited about where this is going. We've already received some great feedback, and really excited about where Huckabee is taking us with this process. Finally, under the learning environment, I can't tell you the excitement that this program has already brought to this building, if anything, but the impact they're already making on our school district. Of these 42 students spend 2 hours a day of mandatory time with us, and then they spend their lunch, and they spend after school, and they stay in the summer, and it is a great partnership that we're developing with these kids, and the feedback, and it is just tremendous. And so I'd invite you to come see some of the work that they're already doing. You've seen some of their products on the screen. You'll see it in the classroom very soon. Assessment for learning, really 3 things. Experiential assessment is really where we're headed, a transition over to that over the next few years, not just a multiple choice test. It's hard to measure collaboration and communication and those types of things through a multiple choice test, so that is going to begin to change a little bit. Also want to share with you in the next agenda item how we have done from an accountability standard, when it does come to the state minimum expectation. And so we'll talk about that here in just a second. Finally, the T-test system. Dr. John Crane commented the other day how proud he was of the progress our school district has made. We're one of 2, again, across the state of Texas to adopt a self-evaluation system with our teachers. One big difference this year, the state has asked us to go to a performance-based evaluation system called a student learning objective evaluation performance as a component of the evaluation. That's new. We chose to take, again, a little bit different route with that. We're allowing our teachers to design their own goals when it comes to their students in high-need areas, and they are setting those goals for each of the learning objectives that they're focused on, and measuring their growth along the way. So excited about the progress we've made there with our T-test system. Digital learning, all of our elementary schools have, actually K-8 now, have implemented our digital citizenship curriculum for all of our students. You should see that either through the libraries or through Focus Time or other avenues throughout the school district. And then also we've begun to integrate technology, and this has been a continued focus, not just with the 4 through 12 one-to-one that we've implemented, but also with what we are calling our littles, K through 2, K through 3. And I just wanted to show you a little bit of the work that they are already doing. You're welcome to go back and review this at another time. But this is pretty amazing to watch, some of the work that they can already do.
I see 2 cups of water. I think 1 ice cube will melt. I learned that the hot water melted before the cold.
So our kindergarten students, as you saw right there, are able to actually, give their information to their teacher in a little bit different way. They're also able to, and I'm going to show you this one real quick just so you're aware, for example, give sight words and allow the...
Go after and acts as by every fly from going has hurt him his how just no let's live.
So I think you get the gist. They're doing sight words, and they're reading to themselves on a recorded video or other avenue and submitting that through Canvas to their teacher. Their teacher's able to then record their feedback and shoot it right back to the student the next day. So it's pretty amazing to watch. Even these younger children are able to participate with this technology, and they're continuing to grow this each and every day. So very excited about where we're going with these things. Community partnerships, and you've heard us talk a lot about the collaborative learning community, and this is what it looks like. It's the idea that we all have to work together for our kids to be successful. We've talked about teachers and educators. We've talked about parents last year. We've talked about businesses and the partnerships there over the last few years. This year's focus is community and how we can gain some of those servants that are already around and get them in our schools with our kids, supporting our school district. And so very excited about where we're about to head with community. We're in the process of developing feedback and seeing maybe what that could look like, who we could actually ask to help. So that's coming soon. I will tell you that there's a lot of servants that are already here. We just need to ask them for a little bit of help and tell them how they can support us. The other thing that you may have seen over the past few weeks is we've put in a parent engagement workshops. We partner with Region 10 on this. And this is kind of a pilot this fall. You've seen taking an active role in your child's life was our first session. Had a great turnout of about 112 pre-sign up. We've got a substance abuse training for our parents as well coming up next Monday, and then bullying in November. So we're hoping to continue this if we continue to get good feedback from our parents. And then finally, we are continuing to tell our story. And this is a goal of ours to not only give the information like you just saw in the video earlier, but also begin to talk about the great things that education does in general, and specifically public education for our community and our nation. So you will hear some more of this as we continue to roll out our video series this year, and specifically that'll be growing because we now have a lot more workers upstairs with our students, if that makes sense. So really excited about where we are with Forney Focus and Forney Focus 2.0. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Concerning Forney Focus and the district improvement plan update. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to item E, accountability report. Once again, recognize Dr. Justin Terry, our Deputy Superintendent.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to come to you tonight and share with you our annual accountability update. We talk a lot about innovation in the school district, but we also talk about innovation inside the box. Therefore, we're going to continue to be successful within the system that is created for us. In this case, the state accountability system with the STAR testing and EOC testing. And we're excited to share with you that all 13 of our campuses that are rated did meet standard this year. Again, we also have state distinctions. We actually had seven different distinctions to share with you tonight. Criswell Elementary had a science achievement, and Blackburn Elementary a science achievement. Smith Elementary received a top 25% closing the performance gap distinction. Warren Middle School was honored with a top 25% student progress distinction. And congratulations to Forney High School. They had 3 distinctions this year. Very exciting. Top 25 student progress, closing performance gaps, and the ever elusive post-secondary readiness distinction. So very excited about some of the honors that our schools have received. Also just want to share with you, as always, we can compare ourselves to the state, but that's not good enough for Forney ISD. We can compare ourselves strictly with Kaufman County, but what we really feel that we need to compare with are other like districts and districts that we are competing with, whether it be on a football or basketball field or also academically across the state of Texas. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about our comparison data so that you're aware. The state of Texas actually puts us into 4 indices. Index 1 is really just about the passing rate of students, and so as you can see, we're performing pretty well, definitely against the state and Kaufman County, but as you can see, we're also competing with some of these other school districts as well. Index 2 is the one that, to me, is one of the most important. It is focused on the growth of all students. And as you can see, we are right there with the Planos, the Richardsons, the Rockwalls. We still are striving for some of the Friscos and the Wiley in this category, but this is definitely a focus of ours, Index 2, and continuing to improve those areas. Index 3, as you can see, we've done very well in. This is about our subpopulations and how we work with those to close the achievement gap when it comes to ethnicities and low SES socioeconomic students. So we have, as you can see, performed very well. And one of my favorites here, Index 4, is all about post-secondary readiness. And this is the one where I'll just stop and let you stare for a second, if that's okay, and let you see that year after year, Forney ISD continues to be a leader in the Metroplex when it comes to post-secondary readiness. So very proud of our performance in Index 4 again this year. So again, we can be extremely innovative. But many school districts choose to innovate outside the box. We choose to innovate inside the box and be successful in the box as well. Finally, this is the one probably I'm most proud of and I'd like to share with you. Is just a 2-year trend of our advanced scores. This was a definite focus, specifically with our brain-compatible strategies and natural learning environment. It's really about getting long-term memory penetration and deeper learning. And as you can see, the blue represents the 2017 advanced scores versus the 2016 in green. And you can see tremendous growth across our school district. So very excited about these advanced scores and the trend that we're currently creating here in Forney ISD. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you do have over this year's accountability ratings.
Any questions concerning the accountability report? Great job. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to item 9F, District of Innovation Report, Dr. Terry.
Yes, sir. Won't take up a lot of time. Just wanted to give you an annual report. We became a District of Innovation last year about this time. And so we felt it was necessary to convene our committee once a year at least to review our plan of innovation as well and our progress towards it. As well as receive an update on any possible changes from a legislative and statute standpoint. We did that over the last couple of weeks, met with our committee. They did review our plans, and we had Walsh Gallegos, our attorney here, to give us a little bit of a legislative update and also share best practices across the the state of Texas. There are over 600 districts that have adopted plans of innovation. And so it is definitely something that I think is here to stay. She advised us in the same way. That's over half of the school districts across the state have gone down this route. So our team had an opportunity to review and make recommendations. At this time, they are very satisfied with the progress and the plan that is in place and do not have any additional recommendations for the board for amendments or any changes to our plan for this year. Any questions I can answer over our District of Innovation plan?
Any questions concerning the District of Innovation report? Dr. Terry, I've got one I noticed in the TASB presentations that we could go to this weekend. One of those was a report on all the changes that they'd made on the District of Innovation legislatively. Can you kind of give us none of those, I assume, affected Forney ISD or anything we'd taken advantage of?
Correct, and from what we heard from Haley Turner, our attorney, she did review all of those and give us an update. There were really no major changes to the District of Innovation this year, which we're excited to hear. We were concerned, especially from lobbyists, that they may get some things through. However, at this time, she did not present any that would affect Forney ISD in any way.
So we don't need to go to that seminar this weekend?
Yes, sir. You could probably pick a better one.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Waste your time on that one.
Moving on to 9G, Master Planning Report. Dr. Terry?
Yes, sir. I'm excited to come to you tonight and not tell you much, but just continue this communication. We are still in the planning process. We had some doors open for us over the last few weeks, and Huckabee has taken those doors and are developing some options for you. We'll come back to you from a facility standpoint in November and share some options and a lot of more detailed information with you at that time about what these facilities and expansions may look like. Just wanted to remind you that we really didn't have a lot on the calendar for this month other than just to give you a brief update of our progress, and that's what this is. That's from a build design standpoint. When it comes to our transition, our conversion over to a new educational model, if we thought some of the conversations that we have had when it comes to facilities have been big, wait till we get to the educational modeling. There's a lot there when we change the model of education here in Forney ISD, and so we're beginning that process now. We are working on really taking feedback on some of the questions that need to be answered, theming those out, and we're putting together 4 different committees to begin to work on some answers to some of these changes that may take place, whether it be reprogramming, whether it be things like attendance zones and transportation, or even personnel and what that looks like from a transfer process. So we're starting that process now. We're hoping to slowly bring that to you over the next few months. We have tonight with us LaTanya from Huckabee is here. So more than anything, we just would open it up to any questions that you do have, but really we're just moving forward and progressing on schedule as we have discussed. And November will be really our target date to share with you many of the design options.
Okay. Any questions concerning the master planning report? And just as a reminder, we'll be having a workshop November the 13th,
yes, sir.
6:30 p.m. That will, I assume at that point, get our master plan update, demographers information, some
Yes, sir.
all those pieces.
Yes, sir. We should have our final demographer report to present to you in the regular November meeting, and then our workshop following that will focus really on the facility.
Great. Okay, good deal. All right. Thank you, Dr. Terry. Appreciate all that information. Well done. Appreciate all the work everybody's done. Moving on to item 10 is consent agenda. Item A is the minutes of the September 11th, 2017 regular meeting. B is the hazardous bus routes. C is a budget amendment. D is request for maximum class size waiver exemptions. And E is approval of prevailing wage rates concerning our upcoming construction. The board would, the chair would entertain a motion to consider the consent agenda either collectively or individually, whatever the board's pleasure.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda collectively.
Motion, Mr. White, is there a second? Second, Mr. Andrews. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 11, considered agenda. Item A is consideration and possible approval of the annual financial audit. This time, the chair would recognize Mr. John Chase, our CFO.
Tonight we have our audit representative here from Hankins, Step Deaton, Tonnesay, Dan Tons, the partner with the firm that conducted the on-site field work and put together the final report for us, and he's going to be here tonight to discuss the report with you. So Dan, if you want to come on up, I'll get your PowerPoint fired up here.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight and to go over the results of the audit. Just as an introduction, I think the audit went very well. We were here in May to do some preliminary work and came back towards the end of August after the end of the fiscal year to finish up with our final procedures. I believe one of the items in your packet was a letter that kind of highlighted the results of the audit. Basically just communicated to you that there were no problems or issues that arose during the audit. We had no significant adjusting entries that had to be made. We didn't have any problems communicating with management or obtaining access to information. So we felt like the audit went very well, and I think you'll be pleased when you see the actual financial results of the audit. So just to start going through that, just a little bit about our engagement team. As John mentioned, I'm the engagement partner. that conducts or supervises the actual on-site work. I had 3 staff members that worked with me on that. 2 of those are senior staff members that have been with our firm a number of years. And then we have a partner that reviews all of our work. So this slide just kind of gives you an overall look at our process. Our goal, the center circle, is to give you an opinion on your financial statements and on your major federal programs. And then the outline areas talk about some of the areas that we work to do that, with a risk assessment of the district based on your environment, your personnel, your internal control systems, all of those type of risk-related items. We test the controls that we feel are important to the internal control system. And then the other 2 areas, we do a substantial amount of analytical review and a substantial amount of actual verification, confirmation, and testing. I'm happy to report that our opinion on your financial statements is a clean opinion, or what's referred to as an unmodified opinion. That's on page 3 and 4 of your audit report. The unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that a school district or any other governmental entity can receive. There are no qualifications, there's no compliance issues, there's no findings. The bottom of the slide presents some of the other options that you might receive, but as I said, I'm happy to report that you received an unmodified report. There are 2 sets of financial statements that are presented in the audit report. The first are referred to as government-wide financial statements. These are all of the district's funds combined. It includes all of your current and long-term assets and liabilities, as well as deferred outflows and inflows. The fund financial statements are the individual funds, such as the general fund, the debt service fund, and they present a much more current financial picture where only current financial resources are presented, and it's on a modified accrual basis, whereas the government-wide statements are on a full accrual basis. To give you a summary of the government-wide financials, the statement of net position is on page 16 of your report. You have total assets on a government-wide basis of $256 million. That includes $37.1 million of cash and $206 million of capital assets net of depreciation. There are some deferred outflows related to a deferred charge on your bond refundings and pensions. Then your total liabilities are $360 million, which is mostly bond and bond-related and other debt. You do have a $14.6 million pension liability and a deferred inflow related to pensions of $2.7 million. So your total net position on the government-wide basis is a negative $83.8 million, which might sound really scary, but that's really not unusual for a fast-growth district with a lot of bonded debt and a lot of capital appreciation bonds, which you have, and your fund financials, your general fund and your debt service fund, do have very healthy fund balances. So we'll look at that in just a moment. And part of the reason for the negative net position is your pension liability. This is the 3rd year that we've been required under the GASB to present the pension liability in the government-wide financial statements. It does not represent a future cash outflow because the pension liability is really a liability of the state of Texas. It does not affect your fund financial statements, your general fund, debt service fund and other funds, and it reduced the district's net position on a government-wide basis by almost $10 million. I've been mentioning the fund financial statements. Your fund financial statement balance sheet, you have total assets of $50 million. You had a general fund due from the state of $9.8 million. John mentioned in his review of the summary of finance that there was a settle-up payment in September of about $800,000 that is not included in your fund financial statements. This $9.8 million is the July and August state payments that were received within the 60-day period that really related to the prior school year. So that is booked as a receivable. Your general fund cash was $19.2 million, total liabilities of $7.7 million, accrued wages $6.2 million. That's really the July and August payment to your teachers, and is somewhat is more than offset, as you can see, by the amount that the state still owed you. So they make payments to the district in July and August, and then you pay out the remainder of your teacher contracts in July and August because they get paid September through August. So your unearned revenue was $116,000, and none of that was to the state. The next slide gives you a graphical representation of your fund balance. As you know, the board has done a great job over the last 6 years to recover from some fairly severe financial problems. And you've gone from a fund balance of negative $4 million to the current year fund balance is $23.6 million, and that's the general fund only. So I think you should be very proud of that progress. Budget to actual, you budgeted an increase of $4.4 million. The actual increase was about 7.7. Property tax collections increased from the prior year. As you know, your taxable values continue to go up. Your appraised value increased by $447 million. Your M&O tax collection rate was 99.1% of the current year levy. That's a very healthy, probably one of the highest collection rates that we see in most of the districts that we do. So that's a very healthy sign. This just shows you your general fund revenues by type. 53% is property, 41% is property taxes, and state aid is about $39.5 million, or 53%. As you know, that state percentage continues to drop, especially in light of your increased property values. This next slide shows you your expenditures by function. 58% of your expenditures are instructional related, and that's directly spent in the classroom. Then you have school leadership, transportation, general administration, plant and maintenance, data processing, and other. Your debt service fund increased by $4 million. The ending fund balance is $15.9 million. As John pointed out earlier, you need a fairly healthy fund balance because you make a substantial payment in August. I believe it was slightly over $11 million, almost $12 million. Your next year's principal and interest payments are scheduled to be $16.2 million. Your debt service levy is $15.3 million, and again, a 99.1% collection rate. We're required to look at your federal compliance and your internal controls over your federal programs. As I said earlier, we did not have any internal control findings. We did not have any findings related to your compliance with your major federal programs. So it's the district should be proud of the fact that it's a no findings audit. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have related to the audit.
Any questions concerning the annual financial audit as presented? Okay. Thank you.
I'd just like to add a thank you to John and his entire staff. They put in a lot of work to get us all of the information we need. And as I said earlier, things went very well, so they're to be congratulated.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Yes, I'd just like to also say thank you to John and all of his staff, and to the principals and to everyone for being such good stewards of our taxpayers' money. I think everyone is very cognizant of that. We never want to live through what we lived through in the past, and many hours have gone into turning this ship around and righting some of the wrongs. I couldn't be more proud of this audit, and thank you so much for doing that, and it was a pleasure working with you, too.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to work with Forney ISD.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for all your work, and John, thank you for you and your team putting this together. This is your scorecard on an annual basis, so I'm glad. I know you're glad to get a clean audit, so without an opinion. So, do what?
I think it gets an A+.
Oh yeah. So you met expectations, and that what the state met standards. You met standards. Okay. Right. We've just raised those up a little bit.
And you got some distinctions.
Thank you. This time, the chair would entertain a motion concerning approval of our annual financial audit.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Johnson. A second, Mr. Regan. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consideration possible approval of contract with Gallagher Construction. This time, the chair recognizes Mr. John Chase, our CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. As you recall, I believe it was in last month or either that or July 31st, I can't remember, we brought the Gallagher Construction project. It's for this intermediate school project that they're going to be the construction manager agent on the project. And we, at the time, we'd also had a contract price that was negotiated. We didn't really have the full contract, the AIA document that you have in front of you tonight negotiated at that point, but we did have a contract price. And so, but based on the fact that we actually have it all down in the language that's required for the contracts of this nature, our attorneys recommended that we bring this back before you tonight to approve. And so, the contract price, it hasn't changed any. You found that in Article 11. It's $882,000 plus any reimbursable expenses that are listed in Article 12.4. Now, in the write-up, I put in there that contract price is for a 12-month period, and visiting with Vaughn last week. We fully expected it probably will be a little over 12 months for this project to end, because we're going to probably give the notice to proceed. At least our plan is to give the notice to proceed to the contractors probably in June of this year to start work, and that we very likely won't have any of the building upgrades to the bathrooms of the current facilities that we have in our building that'll have to be modified, completed probably until July of the following year. So that's going to be about 14 months, and it wasn't his intention to really charge us anything extra. They just have to have a certain time. I mean, they can't let this drag on for a 2-year time period. So basically, what he told me is that we could just strike through that 12 months and put 14 mons on there. It wouldn't be any problem, and they don't intend to bill us any more than the contract price. Unless the cost of the construction goes up over $1 million more than $13 million, and that's another stipulation that's in the contract. And so right now, our projected cost is $13 million. So what they basically have written in the contract is if the contract price goes over $1 million higher than that, then there'll be a mechanism to go back in and calculate an additional fee on that. So, but anything between $13 million and $14 million, they're not going to charge us anything more for it. So, but if it goes over $14 million and $1, then for that $1 million and $1, the price that will be negotiated, or that has been negotiated, that will be an additional 6.75%. and that's pretty standard on these types of contracts. So based on all that, I mean, my recommendation would be to go ahead and approve the contract that you have before you. There's also some general conditions in there that they go along with the contract. And Ms. Sacco, she has a contract where I've gone in there and struck through the 12-month and written in 14, or penned in 14. I've initialed that, and Bond said he would initial it, and we just proceed on as planned.
Thank you. John, at this time, Chair, we look for a recommendation from Ms. McWilliams.
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve that the board approve the Gallagher contract as presented.
Okay, we have a recommendation from our CFO and our superintendent to approve the contract as amended with Gallagher Construction. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none at this time, Chair to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Gallagher contract with amendments.
Okay. Motion, Mr. Ferris. Second, Mr. Green. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And Ms. Sacco, if you'll just recognize that I abstained from that vote. Greg Ferris made the motion, Judy, and Ms. Green made the second. And the vote was 6-0, one abstention, and that was myself. Thank you. Moving on to item C, consideration of possible approval of additional positions. At this time, the Chair would recognize Mr. John Chase, our CFO.
In the background information that we wrote up for this agenda item, basically pointed out at this point right now we have 10,196 students enrolled, and we developed the budget back last spring and summer on an enrollment forecast of 10,092. So we're 100 over that number right now, and based on that, we can expect to receive an additional amount of revenue from the state, approximately $565,000. You know, and we've talked a lot about this during the budget process, but, you know, we try to staff on a student to total staff ratio, and right now we're around a 9-to-1 student to total staff ratio in our district. And so, you know, based on 100 additional students, that would mean that we could hire at least 10 positions. But tonight we're asking for, well, it'd be a total of 8 since the budget was adopted, because we approved 2 last month for some instructional assistants to go into dual language classes. And now we're asking for an LVN to serve a medically fragile student at Crosby, and then we're asking for a behavior aide at Lewis to serve in their BAC unit. We're also asking for 2 additional teaching positions to serve, if we can find them, and find the quality staff members right now, one for a 4th grade class at Lewis and one for a 6th grade class at Smith. And then finally, there's 2 additional positions that we would like to get approved tonight so we can react to any additional increases in enrollment that we might have between now and I would say the first of the year. Sometimes, you know, we have some active home sales around Christmas time, and brings additional enrollment. If we have some class sizes that get really large, you know, above, you know, way beyond what our typical class size should be for an elementary school campus, or any other campus for that matter, that we might have that you know, flexibility to go ahead and get those approved now, so we can get those hires done at Christmas time or thereafter if it's required. So just kind of going back and summarizing then, the total cost of these 8 positions, and this would include the 2 positions that were approved last month, and I'm estimating that would be $352,000, which is certainly well below the $565,000 that we believe that we'll earn in additional state aid for the current year. And I'd also point out that 352 number for the cost is for a full 12-month or, you know, 10 months for teaching positions. It's a full year's salary in any event. And since we're hiring or will hire now for those positions, part of the year's already passed, and so it's going to have to be prorated. So it's going to be even less than that. But the bottom line is that I think we'll have plenty of revenue to cover it, and we definitely have the needs. And so, you know, our recommendation would be that we approve the additional 6 positions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Mr. Williams, you have a recommendation?
Yes, sir. We are asking adjustment to our budget, but we do as Mr. Chase says, we do have the money to cover that based on the growth that we've had, and this is not uncommon in fast-growth school districts to do this. But we'd like to have these 6 positions available. If you give us your blessing on that, and then we can monitor and adjust as we go. Right now, we're looking for qualified teachers. Of course, most of those are already teaching, but at midterm, a lot of students graduate after the first of the year, and so we may have a new pool to pull from then. But we'd like to go ahead and get those done now, so we don't have to keep coming back to you and asking for positions.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask the board if they would approve the additional positions as requested.
Okay, we have a recommendation to approve, from administratively to approve the additional positions. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am?
We got caught one time having to pay back money that we didn't know we were going to pay back. Do we have to pay back the difference between the 352 million and the 565? Sorry, that's thousands. 565,000.
No, ma'am.
So, yeah, I think the question is that they're independent of each other. So the amount that we earn is based on
Yes.
student attendance, and that isn't going to change. If we have the students enrolled in our district or in average daily attendance in our district, we're going to receive the 565 whether we hire any staff member to cover it or not.
And we've already exceeded what we had planned on anyway, which is different than we did a long time ago. Just the opposite. So we're fine.
Yeah, along those same lines, what does our current enrollment look like compared to our snapshot projection from Templeton?
So when we built our budget, that's the number that we use. Now I don't have the updated one from this fall report yet, but the budget was built on 10,092 or 96 students, I think, somewhere in there, 94, one of those, just under 10,100, and we're at almost 10,200 right now, so we're about 100 over that.
So Templeton is, we had a brief meeting with Templeton. They're working up new numbers for us. We should have those by the end of the month, and then we'll bring a report to you, a new one from them in November.
Yeah, as of last Friday, it was 10,180.
Yeah, I think
Up 11.
That may be in the Friday before. I think last Friday was actually 10,194, if I remember right.
We're at 190.
I'm looking at the 29th of September.
Yes, sir. That's what that says, 29th of September?
Yes, sir.
Now, there's, right, one of them has speech-only kids in there. The bottom, I think, left is a different number than what the actual students. We don't actually draw attendance on those, but that's the enrollment that you turn into the state, and I was just kind of comparing apples to apples. But you're correct. I mean, we're dealing with the same.
Okay. Any other questions? Not at this time, the chair would entertain a motion.
So
We got a motion by Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Andrews. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chase. Before we move into executive session, I know a lot of our principals won't be here when we come back, or typically are not. So I just wanted to once again thank you, recognize our principals for the job that you do. We all recognize that you guys do the heavy lifting with the kids and the parents and all that stuff, and we appreciate what you do every day on behalf of this board and this school district and our stakeholders. So thank you again. Moving on to item 12, executive session. It is 8:07 p.m. and we're going to recess into executive session concerning item 12A, deliberation regarding employment of professional contract personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074 personnel matters, as well as item 12B, deliberation regarding the quarterly superintendent's evaluation pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074 personnel matters.